Okay, hello, welcome to the Mental Health Bar. As per the norm, I've turned it to the wrong camera there. As per the norm, I'm Chris PG, and I'm here with Phil Airson, uh, confidence and stress expert slash coach. We were still a bit. We don't want to overblow it, do we? But we're going with confidence and stress coach. And it's going to be a fantastic talk. Phil, up until the pandemic, was a psychotherapist. Am I right there? Yes.
Hmm.
And then you've pivoted to be a confidence and stress coach 8 months ago, you said?
Yes, 7, 8 months ago. Yes,
Seven, 8 months ago.
I'm still not comfortable with the word expert, but I'm going to roll with it. Let's go.
Confidence.
Yeah, that's
Confidence.
it. That's it. What's more confident than calling yourself an expert?
What's more confident than I do not call myself a streamer. I went full time streamer two
Uh,
Fridays ago, and after saying I was going to step back from stand up comedy, and I do not. I refer to myself as a full time streamer more and more and more
right.
often, just to get it in there. You know, like
Well,
get it.
when I started coaching, I it took me ages to call myself a coach, and it wasn't until I'm going to say coach so much here, but it
It's
wasn't
okay.
until my coach was asking me, are you a coach? And I was like, well, no, not yet. And he said, well, are you coaching people? I said, yes. And then he said, well, start calling yourself a coach because you've got a coach. That's what it does.
Yeah,
Same thing.
it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of our people has just said I'm an expert in being stressed, so that's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Phil has been recommended, and you were recommended by Andrea, our dominant mindset coach, who we had on our very first show. That's how we know each other, and it turned out that we may in fact be the same person. Two
Yes.
two different divergent timelines. So it's nice to have a similar person
Yeah.
on
Thanks
the
very much, man.
show.
I feel like you're maybe the kind of the good version of me with your luscious hair.
I don't know. The hairy ones are always the bad guys. You always think it's the. You always think it's. You think about it. Jason Statham, he's always the good guy. The Rock, the
Mm.
good guy. Bruce Willis, Hans Gruber, the
Bruce
hairy
Willis a
guy.
good guy? No, but he's a good guy when he's got less, but still some hair. I'm Lex Luthor.
That's fair
I'm
enough.
the guy from Thunderbirds.
The guy from Thunderbirds.
Yeah,
That.
thick eyebrows, bald hair.
Thick eyebrows, bald hair. I think
I
it's
don't
good
know why
enough.
I'm trying to convince you I'm a terrible person.
No, I don't. I don't think you're going to be successful. I don't think you're going to be
No,
successful.
no, no. Okay, all right.
So, well, we're here to talk about obviously confidence and stress and
Mhm.
anxiety as well. We're going to be talking about all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Something I'm very familiar with. We were talking this. We've had a little discussion beforehand just to
Mhm.
warm us up and get to know each other. Anxiety and confidence are something that I struggle with, even though I
Sure.
was a stand-up comedian, and I've taught people how to be confident as well as part of a
Mm.
mentor program when I was teaching stand-up comedians, so fresh new stand-up comedians. So I'm looking for. I'm going to be taking tips out of this as well, Phil. Um,
Cool.
but but why don't you tell everyone what you were doing and how you've got into being a confidence and stress coach? How did you come to that? Where were you before? What's that?
Yeah, of
What's the
course.
path?
So I always kind of have defined confidence as I think a lot of times people think it's someone who can get up on stage and do stand-up comedy, and it's someone who can talk to a large group of people, and it's someone who can be loud and kind of put themselves out there, and that's not really what confidence is. Confidence is more an acceptance of self, and so you can be the loudest person in the room but still be not very confident. And by the same token, you could teach people confidence and not be particularly confident because it's about acceptance of self. So I was kind of telling you beforehand, I had loads of issues with exactly that, accepting myself, and there was always this sense of wrongness. So I got a job when I was 16 that I hated, and it just wasn't right. But I kind of stayed in it forever, and when I was going through my teenage years, just something always just felt wrong. And what it was that I never truly kind of accepted who I was in relation to the rest of the world. Um, and it wasn't until my first son came along I really kind of thought, right, when I was reflecting on my role as a dad, and I just kind of thought that there's got to be a way to connect with who I really am, because
Yeah.
just everything across life was just wrong.
Yeah.
And so I studied to be a therapist, and then a psychotherapist, and then that was great, and it was closer, but it wasn't quite there. And I always said that therapy and that kind of work was like rescuing an old boat off the bottom of the sea and patching it up, and it was great. But I've now got a harbour full of working boats not going
Yeah.
anywhere. And coaching was just like being able to set a destination, plot a journey, go on a journey with people and stuff like that. And that was just really exciting. It's something I kind of explored during lockdown, and that just really kind of just connected that last piece for me, and I just felt connected to it. And yeah, and so then I felt confident is the long way to say
You
that.
felt confident. You see, now
Confident, yeah.
there's someone's asked two questions in the chat that are they're quite similar and relevant to the point you made. Someone's asked,
Mhm.
how are you defining confidence? What would you say is the
So
definition of?
yeah, so it's I define it as the acceptance of self, and what I look for when I'm working with people to like always the first thing that I try to do is work with people to really understand their why. And what I mean by that is it's kind of usually 7 to 10 layers deep, and you keep asking someone, why are you doing this? And then they've normally got a stock answer. So I like to help people, but then, why do you feel it's important to help people? And you just kind of keep going into that.
Mm,
Anyway, you get there eventually, and you can align your life to that because you know who you are, you know why you're doing what you're doing, and everything else can kind of, if you can get the rest of your life aligned to you as a person,
yeah.
that's where kind of self-acceptance comes from. I feel like I've explained that in a really crappy way, but like it's I lived a lot of my life not being aligned to my why because I didn't know why I did anything. There was just incredible lack of purpose, I think, is
Yes.
good. So
Yeah.
finding out your real purpose and what really drives you, and connecting with that, I think that is confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. See, I can really relate to that because, and someone else is talking. Joe's asked a question about confidence, and actually, Joe, we're going to cover that in a minute, so I'll cover it in our
Hmm.
chat. But so I'm not ignoring that, Joe. But I am. People would think that I was quite a confident person. I but I am constantly racked with self-esteem issues. I'm actually, I have to be honest, I'm getting a lot better. Over
Hmm.
lockdown, it's really helped. But something I really, really, really struggle with is imposter syndrome. So
Mm.
telling people, like we said, saying you're a coach, saying you're like a stand-up comedian before I even struggle. So
Hmm.
I had to rewrite my bio this last week, and when
Mm.
I wrote in things that I'd done that were like successes,
Yes.
but I had forgotten I did them because, as far as I
Mm.
was concerned, they weren't relevant. So, what
Yeah.
would you say about people suffering with imposter syndrome? How would you find your why in order to overcome that very
Yeah.
much?
So on one of the things you said there is really, really good. I keep a daily diary where I just write 3 things that I have done, well, a minimum of 3 that are, really productive and really good. And before I talk to anyone and before I kind of go into any kind of business venture, I just kind of revisit so I can see all of the good productive things that I do in that day, because chances are it doesn't stay in the mind. I go back and I look and think, oh my god, I haven't done anything. I mean, really, I've got an absolute shit ton of stuff, but I it's so easy to focus on the negative. So you can get these really cheap journals on Amazon where it's just you put 3 things in. Gratitude journals, I think they're called. You can just put 3 things in that have gone really well that day,
Yeah,
and I just reflect on those. Um, and that's how I kind of keep myself grounded with not feeling like an imposter, and because I've got this big book full of evidence that I'm really good at what I do and who I am.
So that's a really good. So that's a really good technique. Just
Yeah.
keeping a record of something.
Mm.
I have a similar thing. I stopped doing it actually because I'm bipolar, and
Mhm.
it like tries to stop you from doing useful things that help you. So I need
Yes.
to get back to doing it. But for about 6 months, up until about January, I was
Mm.
keeping one where every day I'd write down a to-do list because I've got bad memory, and then I'd write,
Mhm.
I am a good person today because, and then
Yes.
a list of
Oh.
things.
Mm.
That's what you're talking about, isn't it? So just
Yeah.
something like
Wonderful.
that. And then
Yeah.
did you find you were doing stuff just to fill the diary? So I was like, I will do something so I can put it in the diary.
Yes. Yes. At certain points, which was sometimes good. Sometimes it was a bit of a time waster. Um, yeah. So it's I now only use the journal to write down the good things,
Yeah.
and things I'm grateful for, and less. I don't really document my day so much,
No.
because that started turning into a negative when maybe things weren't happening. I'd journal that, and it was no fun.
See, this is crazy. This is because that's actually the reason I stopped doing it. Is because
Mm.
when I started it, I was right. It was a technique that I got from a YouTube channel called Struthless, and
Right.
it was just the good thing. What gave me energy today, and what took my energy away, and the what
Mm.
took my energy away started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
turn the page, and I'd be like, right, don't want
Yeah.
to. I don't want to write that. I don't want to revisit.
Yeah. Well, my kind of brain started taking me into doing, right, I've got nothing to fill in here. I'm just going to do little doodles. And then when I would reflect on it, I'd be like, oh my God, I wasted all that time drawing a stupid picture of myself as a superhero or something, something really dumb.
But that's
And then,
creative.
well, it is creative, but it's also a tremendous waste of time. So yeah, now and I'm really strict with it, and I work really well with routine.
Yeah.
So I just kind of keep that going. Yeah.
That's it. That's a great routine's a big thing. We've talked about it here before a lot. And routine's
Mm.
a big thing. So someone's just asked us to clarify imposter syndrome. Do you have a very specific clarification for imposter syndrome rather than me just?
Well, it's when you feel like you are in a role by not by merit, is how
Yes.
I'd kind of describe it. Um, I've got a literal example of this. Is when I worked in the bank, I went for a job interview, and I had applied for so many jobs. Me and my partner at the time were moving down to Oxford, and I went for a job interview with the bank, and I'd applied for, like I said, loads of jobs, and I turned up to this one job, and I hadn't realised I'd applied for it, and it was quite a high position in investments, and I'd
Yeah.
never worked in investments before, and it was as an investment manager, and I went to the wrong interview first at the wrong place. Turned up at this new place, and the interviewer, who normally grills people, had gone out for lunch. So I got these very lovely older people,
Right.
and they sat me down, and I was just bricking it because I knew nothing about this kind of work. And they said, right, well, this is what the job entails. This is what the company does. This is all of that. And then they said, so do you know anything about the company or what the job entails? So I just kind of rephrased everything back at them. I'm like, excellent, you've got the job. You can manage this small team of investment people. Oh, crap. Because I was just looking for any kind of job. And I just ended up managing these like 60, 70-year-old, really seasoned investment people, and I just had massive imposter syndrome, but like deserved.
Yeah.
But yes, sorry, I don't know why I went off on that rant,
No,
but
no,
yeah,
that's a good example. But so you weren't qualified for the job, and
no,
but it made you feel like you weren't. But imposter syndrome is where you are qualified for the job, absolutely, but you feel like that.
correct, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's what I've always got massive imposter syndrome. So like, for example, I was in when I was doing stand up comedy. I was in GQ as one of their top 100 jokes of the year, and
oh,
I never told anyone. I told everyone like when it happened, and then I just never it
yeah.
never went on my CV or anything. So
Well, congratulations
no,
now.
no,
I'm,
just
I'm very proud.
it's the problem. This is like congratulating someone for like years ago. But what I'm saying is, It was
Yeah, I
like
know what you mean.
I didn't feel like, and then I tried to find the reason why I would have got it. Am I friends with the person who wrote the article? Did
Yeah.
did a lot of people die that year?
Mhm.
Just a selection thing. So that's the same thing. Just where,
Yeah. So I had a similar thing. Well, kind of when I started my business, I've done very well, and I was in a constant state of thinking, "Oh my God, I'm done terrible. Why am I a coach? Why did I do this? This is just," even though all the evidence suggested otherwise.
yeah,
And I worked with a coach at the time, and she really got me to acknowledge and really celebrate every small victory.
yeah,
And like really working on that was huge, because especially where I'm from, up in the northeast, you just get on with it.
yeah,
It's always, what if you've done something good, right? What's the next thing you're going to do?
never enough.
Don't, yeah, exactly. You don't tell anyone. You just keep going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah,
So really kind of taking it, and again, it comes back to the little journal.
yeah,
Celebrating those small victories is so important, and I'm not saying, like, become incredibly arrogant and that kind of thing, but just acknowledge to yourself when you've done something really well.
yeah.
Like
Exactly.
get a joke published.
Okay, project published. But I see. I think that arrogance is one of the things that we're taught as a bad thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be very destructive to think of all arrogance as negative. So I
Mm.
think that there's a very fine line between confident and arrogant, but I also think that arrogant is not necessarily a bad thing all the time. It gets us paid. So
True.
yeah. So
True.
what are your thoughts on that?
So what I would say to that is going back to how I define confidence as acceptance of self,
Yeah,
and not as the version of confidence that can um, be portrayed as just being loud and boisterous and things like that.
yeah,
I think you can be that and not confident.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas I think a monk could be confident, and say nothing.
yeah,
So I do completely know what you mean. But in terms of arrogance, yeah, I think a little bit of arrogance can really kind of go far, and it's when, it's like with anything, it can be good and it can be bad.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, if
Anything.
if you yeah, but if you know how to use it, if you can portray that. See, I want to use the word confidence because I don't know a better term for it, but when you can portray that out of arrogance, that out of confidence, and um, you can make people feel assured, you can make people believe in you, you can make people believe in an idea that maybe
Yes.
without that, it's not kind of going to go anywhere.
Well, but so how big would you say? So we've got this diary. This is my thoughts on it. And someone's asked a similar question. You've got the
Mhm.
diary. Now I know
Mhm.
my personal answer to this. What kind of things are you putting in there? How small are we talking? How big are we talking? Is making the bed, getting out of bed, are those things, or is it really just? Are we talking? I've achieved this big work thing for the day. What would you say?
No, no. So it doesn't have to be massive things. Obviously, put the massive things in there, but it's what you feel is is an accomplishment, and that's really personal. If you struggle to get out of bed every single day, and you get out of bed and make the bed, absolutely put that down there.
Yeah,
Because when you reflect on that, you're gonna think, yeah, I've done that. Or if there's been a job you've been putting off for ages. I looked over there because my kitchen's a bit,
we do though. You
like,
do.
so tidying that up is like, a right, okay. It actually looks fine, but it's completely personal to yourself. But you, the danger is judging your accomplishments by other people's standards. So
Yes.
if getting out of bed was a massive thing for you, and you think, oh, maybe for this guy, other guy, it's not. I'm not going to put it in. Then you're doing yourself a disservice, and
Mm.
that it's something that builds and builds and builds and builds, and it's so personal. It's really important to just keep it for you,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
it's not something you want to be showing other people. I mean, you can if you want, but it's probably
No, it's
boring.
it's like your own thoughts. You don't want to be, you want, they're for, it's completely for you. So I think that's it. It's a great technique that I personally I need to get back to it. I have it by the side of my bed and I need to get back to it. Someone, Ben, one of our listener watchers, has just said, I think arrogance is when you make others feel smaller. Confidence makes others feel good too.
Oh, chef's kiss. There you go.
That's a nice one.
Yeah. Just kind of for everyone listening or watching, I've got twin babies, so I'm running on like minus sleep. So sometimes I will struggle to eloquently put things. So if you guys can just pick up the slack for me, that'd be great.
That's what the chat's there for. Essentially, this is a group of people talking about things. So, what would you say you're here as a confidence and stress coach?
Yeah,
Phil. What would you say your process is? You've got someone. Let's say me. This isn't so that I can get a free session.
Yeah, sure.
This is. I have massive self-esteem problems. What would you start me off with?
Okay, so I would. Are you sure you want to go down this route?
I've opened up to the point of this group have been to be one big raw nerve.
So I would kind of delve into when the confidence issues first started, when you first think about when did you first start feeling like that?
I can tell you, I know. It's
yeah. I'm genuinely asking.
I mean, if you want to do that, I know that it was my mum was very determined to make us good, like make us perfect. So she'd make me take IQ tests daily, and when I was 10, 11, like around then, and also she took us to the dietitian because she thought we were overweight at the age of between 9 and 12 as well. So those two things constantly, and we were being bullied at school. It was all reinforcing this aspect that, and no matter what the score was, we needed to get a better score the next day. So
okay. So when you say good, do you mean kind of academically rather than morally or anything like that?
Yeah, we were a very Christian household, so
yes.
I'm not a religious person, but we were brought up Catholic, and I think being brought up Catholic is actually like an inoculation against religion. It makes you go, yeah, it's not for me. I've seen the bad side. So we brought up Catholic. So obviously the moral side, I think my mum very much used religion to deal with. She was like, turn the other cheek, be nice to people. And I don't want to do her a disservice. My mum, me and my mum are best friends. She is a great person, and I've had this discussion on here before. People who love you can hurt you by loving you as much as a person who wants to hurt you, because they're just trying to do the best thing, but what they think is the best thing. So that's that. I know that to be where that started. So from there,
okay. So, and what messages do you think you picked up there that are still going with you? I mean, I'm hearing that there was a message of whatever you're doing isn't good enough. Whatever you are achieving, why are you not achieving more?
Yes, that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Okay.
It's always going to be that no matter what I do, I know this is whatever. Not that I know this, I know that that's my driving point. Is that whatever I do and succeed at, it's never going to be enough. So it's never going to be. So this could go completely. We could have this interview. I could put this as a podcast. It could get 10 million views, and I'd be like, cool. But the next one won't. And that's that's not a celebration, because I'm always worried. Like we were talking about earlier, you're not celebrating that. You're worried about the next thing. But, So yes.
And how's that showed up in your life up until this point?
God, we don't have long enough, mate. That's a very big question. We don't have long enough for that.
Well, this would be the process, and seeing how that message, and normally there'll be quite a few messages in there, but for example that one, and it would be seeing how that's kind of shown up, and then it would be kind of reflecting back to you and almost doing something called reality testing, where is what you're achieving actually enough? And I know that you're kind of getting there and thinking it's not enough, but could you recognize in someone else, just for example, like getting a joke published is, a really good achievement.
Big thing.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
For anyone.
For anyone, Let alone someone whose job it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, yeah. But it would just be about going through that and just constantly reality testing it until the message was kind of received that I tell you what's a really good thing is that, and I say this all the time, so anyone who's listened to me for more than 5 seconds will be sick of this. My coach always said this thing to me, and it just changed my life forever. That happiness is a place for us to come from and not get to. Okay,
Yes.
so if we are constantly looking to try and reach a target and to get to this thing, and finding we're not good enough, it's going to just keep going and keep going and keep going because there's never an end to it.
No.
What the key is to look at what we've got around us and find the happiness and the joy in the everyday of it all, in now, in the current moment, and in what we have, and doing the podcast and having the chat and things like that, and the goodness that's there,
Yeah.
and really connecting to the happiness in front of us right now. And then when we look to grow, when we look to add things to it, then it could just get better and better and better and better. But if we are thinking, I am not happy unless this happens, and then we get to this happens, and we're like, actually, what I really wanted was this to happen. I want 2 jokes published. I want all 100 jokes to be my jokes. Where does it end?
Jesus. Yeah. I mean,
Look,
now
I'm
that's
setting
arrogance.
your goals, Chris.
Yeah, that's the difference between confidence and arrogance right now.
Yeah, maybe
all 100, all 100.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I brought that up now. It was just the most recent example. But yeah, no, I see what you mean.
I can't get anything out of my head, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, mate. But you're saying that you should enjoy everything right now rather than trying to enjoy it like you come moving forward. You're doing so
not yes, but no, but almost not rather than, but just as a base, that it really changed for me when I started. We moved house and I thought, oh, I don't like the area, I don't like my job, I don't like, I want better this, better that, better that, better that. But once I really started to make what I have work for me in the now, and not didn't live so much in the future of what could happen, what I wanted to happen, then stuff just started coming to me. I started just being happier every day.
yeah.
And that was massive. And now if I go for something and it doesn't quite work out, I can learn a lesson from it, but I still return to my happy base and a place of happiness. And that's just so important, that if we are constantly thinking about what we want and constantly living in the future, we'll just miss everything in the present. And that's the whole point of everything.
Right. And so see, for me that would be like, like the Peter Pan thing, find your happy thought and you can fly. You've always got that place to go back to when everything around you a bit good. So I'm gonna there's other people in the chat that have asked some questions about it, but one of them was that, let me go back up to the top so I get it worded right, was someone said that they feel that when good things happen, so when they're trying to find their happiness, they have this sense of dread that something bad is immediately going to happen after it, and a lot of the time it has happened after it. So what would you suggest to people like that?
Yes, of course. So I used to when I worked in therapy, I worked with someone who was incredibly agoraphobic. Yeah. So she thought as soon as she left the house, and this is going to be obviously an extreme version of that.
Yes.
Well, she thought anytime she was going to leave in the house, she was going to be attacked. Now, she'd never been attacked. She'd never been witness to attack. She never knew anyone who'd been witness to attack, but she was convinced if she left the house, some horrible attack or a car or there was going to be some horrific event happen to her. And when I worked with her, it was just about kind of bringing her into the present moment, and not because anything we kind of worry about or anything we think is going to happen is literally just a story we're telling ourselves.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the equivalent of thinking a dragon's going to swoop down and burn my house. It's really not likely to happen. But if I ruminate and think about it all the time, I'm going to be petrified of leaving the house. I'm going to be petrified of stepping out there because I've convinced myself this is going to happen. And it's just about trying to stay in the present moment and if you kind of, as soon as you start thinking about what's coming next, you're going to lose kind of sight of what's happening right now.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, absolutely. I know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep checking that because I'm like I said, I'm running on low.
Right on a fuse.
So yeah,
that'll twins will do that to you, buddy. That's
Mm.
it's so there's people are talking about it, about reframing techniques like that, like the ones you suggest, being when, if you're an analytical person, they can fall apart under scrutiny, or rather they can be harder to accept under analytical scrutiny. So is there a better way to explain it to someone who's a little bit more analytical? Because we do have a lot of people who are, for example, neurodiverse, who are audience members, and people who are neurodiverse tend to need something less emotional based and more fact based. Is there? I understand that it is fact based, but you know what I mean. It's just, is there more an analytical way to come at it? That, would you think, within your experience?
I mean, hold on, let me have a think. So I think that especially analytically, being in the understanding that the present moment is the only form of reality.
Right, that's a nice way to frame it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both the past and the future are completely invented inside our heads, and you can go into how likely something is and how likely something not is, but it's all a gamble at the end of it. It's all just made up.
Yeah.
Right now, my reality is us doing this podcast. I'm not thinking about what kind of sleep I'm going to have, because it's pointless, because I'm just making it up what kind of sleep I'm going to have. Yeah. And often when we kind of get into that kind of thought, it can become quite self-fulfilling, because we subconsciously kind of nudge reality towards that, because it helps us feel comfortable with it. But right now is the only version of reality that matters. That's kind of the most analytical way I can.
No, that's a great way of putting it. I in my head, I always struggle, because I'm always worried about something that perhaps happened in the past but doesn't. I think the quote that I've got that I really love is from Brené Brown, and classic, great speaker. And I know that some of your techniques I recognize as Simon Sinek, who we talked about before, but Brené Brown, and she said, it was the same podcast, her and Simon were talking, and she said shields are only good until they become walls you can't climb over. And I was like, that's what that is. That anxiety is a shield that you've developed over years of maybe past experiences, maybe trauma, maybe just building it, like you say, in your mind you're building the worry. And then when they're so heavy that you can't carry them anymore, that they just prevent you from going anywhere, it's hard to let them go. But
yeah, of course. But I mean, whenever I do confidence or belief work, when you dive down to the inner workings of a person, it always gets to a place where these systems are formed out of a need for survival, or a need of protection, or a need of something that we develop when we're in our teenage years, that we just carry with us. And like you say, they get bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But as we're older, we don't really need to protect ourselves in the same way from the same kind of things.
Yes.
So it's about getting down there and finding out what we're kind of trying to survive, what we're protecting ourselves from.
Yeah.
And giving that up a little bit and replacing it with something a little bit healthier.
So in my example, for example, if I didn't do well, I know that my mum would give me a smack, and that was the negative thing, and she'd be very disappointed in me and angry at me.
Yes.
And I know that over the years, that obviously right now I'm not scared of my mum giving me a smack, but it's still that deep down in the soul feeling is still there. How would you work that splinter out?
So what we would do,
I would say, we're not expecting to fit weeks of therapy and stuff into their coaching. What would you suggest?
We don't have time for the full thing, obviously, but what I would look at a particular thing that's affecting in your life, and I'd start with the result that you're getting, and then you kind of delve down into I'm going to really kind of go through it.
It's fine.
So from the result, I would look at the actions and the mindset that are causing that result.
Yeah.
And then below that, there's views, opinions, and beliefs, and then it goes down. It keeps going down layers and layers and layers, and each one causes the next one to happen, and eventually we get to the layer that is survival, that is self-protection, and what have you. And you can see all the way up how that need for survival has been informing every single thing and gets you the result that you're getting at the moment. So the I can't remember who said it, I have to admit, but they say that the results that you're getting now, the systems in your life are perfect for getting the results that you're getting. So what you need to do is look at changing the system within that. Yeah. So we would look at the result you want to get.
Yeah.
And we would do the exact same process, but it would be right, okay, if I wanted that result, and I always draw a circle, that's why I'm doing this. I'm not an insane man.
No, do it.
I'm just visualizing it for myself. It's a circle and then a pyramid, if anyone wants to know.
I get my watch will count all of this as steps because of how much I'll just gesticulate.
So really? Yeah. So I would look at the result you want to get instead of the one that you're getting that you don't want, and then I would work down the entire process.
Yeah.
And think, right, if I wanted that result, how would I have to show? What would my action and mindsets have to be to get that result? What would this and this have to be to get the results? Views, opinions, beliefs to get that result, and then you paint out exactly who you'd need to be to get that result, and then you step into it like that. And we get rid of the other one. It's a whole process. It's ceremonial. You do it on paper. You scrumple it up. You get rid of it. It's lovely.
It's very. I said this this morning or last night on one of the other shows. Is that your brain doesn't know the difference between you saying it out loud and doing something to it being real. So if you say out loud, "I'm a good person," you say it enough times, your brain starts to believe it because it doesn't know the difference. So those ceremonial things are very, all ritual is very useful, I think. So
massively.
It's why routine works for bipolar people, because your brain does not want that routine. Routine helps get rid of, well, not get rid of it, but helps combat it. But routine also is lying to your brain that you are in control. That's what it is. And lying to your brain, that's a very interesting, that's a concept that's not, I get you. You know what I mean? We're pushing ourselves through, and like you said, forcing yourself into a situation where you're happy in the now rather than thinking about the future or the past.
That's right.
So someone made a good point a second ago, and I just want to scroll. I have to scroll back up when I talk, which makes for an interesting podcast because you can see me, they can see me, but the podcast people are going to hear this and go, "What's happening right now?"
For podcast people, we're shirtless.
We're shirtless. Yeah, there's whipping going on. So someone says my routines are made in a sweatshop. That's their name. My routines are always in 3s and 5s. Because my lucky number is 4, and if I do it 4 and it goes wrong, then their lucky number is wrong. So that's a dangerous routine. That seems like an OCD symptom. Or...
Yes, that's certainly leaning more towards that. I know people who'll remain nameless who are incredibly governed by routine, and if something kind of slightly goes out of that routine, that it's just like a volcano going off.
Yes.
And I have been working with that person to explore what life is like, to let go of those reins a little bit. And with OCD, I completely understand that is not the way to go. But if it's more of an OCD tendency, then there's work that can be done there. But that must be tough.
Yeah, that must be tough. And I think you should always get checked when you see it depends where you live, but obviously in England we have healthcare that you can obviously go and access quite not easily, but at least openly and cheaply. And it depends on where you live. But if you do have a tendency like that, I would say always get checked.
First and foremost, even if it's just a thought in your mind, just go and get checked out. Don't just wait for ages.
Because it gets worse. It doesn't, like we were talking about with bipolar, anything chronic, it just gets bipolar, OCD. They don't get better; they get worse. So do get checked out if you've got things like that. was the other thing? So someone was talking about processes fail, not people, which is true. So yes,
Mhm.
that was what I was going to ask you. When you are more your thoughts on it. When you are developing the new person, do you leave everything? And I'm talking about the new person in the terms of
Mhm.
dealing with the happiness now.
I understand.
Do you leave everything behind, or are you stripping them bare, or are you keeping a bit and losing? What are you doing to that?
Well, that's really up to the individual. It's not like a brainwashing thing where you create a completely new person, if
No,
you know what I mean.
yes,
I know that that's an extreme metaphor probably, but I don't want to. It's about taking out of the unhelpful stuff, and some of the stuff that you think might be helpful might not actually be. So you explore everything, but
right,
it's about thinking about where you want to be and who you want to be, and stepping into that. And it's not a case of um, like I, as I'm sure you can relate, I've used humor as a defense mechanism since I
oh
was
yeah,
young.
yeah,
Yeah, obviously, and it's the best,
the best.
and it probably hasn't been always helpful to me. I've been punched in the head more than I'd like, but it's when I did work on myself, that's never something I've looked to address. Because I also like being that person. So
Yeah,
so so it's not about getting rid of everything. It's about finding what works for you to give you the kind of life that you're looking for.
yeah,
Um, and like I said, also it's and I will keep coming back to this. It's about acceptance of self,
yeah.
and that is not acceptance of the good parts and trying to get rid of the bad. Confidence starts with complete acceptance of self. The shitty bits and the great bits, the boring bits, the interesting bits, the whole lot, laying it all out on the table and just being like, right, this is me. This is what I want to do. Let's head over that way.
See, that's a great way of putting it. You've got to accept all of it. I think the bad stuff
Yeah.
defines. I always think that the dark stuff defines the light stuff, and vice versa. You can't have
Oh yeah.
shadows without a candle. Someone's made a
Exactly.
someone's made a question, and we talked about confidence a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Stress.
Mm-hmm.
So they say so. It's actually our mod Claire. She said that she is great at dealing with massive crisis. So if something
Mm-hmm.
big happens, she can take charge, in
Yeah.
control, doesn't
Yeah.
lose her head, knows what to do. But
Okay.
the small day-to-day stuff, she falls apart. There's a couple of people that have made the same point in there. What would you say to people like that? Those small things, the small day-to-day family stresses, the cleaning, things like that. I don't think it's the cleaning but that's it. Those specific kind of things.
Yeah.
Why can she deal with the big things, but not
Yes.
the little things?
Okay. So when it comes to the little things, like you're describing there,
Mm,
we can often hold ourselves to a certain standard, and that if these little things are not accomplished in our day, we are failures, and we'll beat ourselves up because it's a little thing. Why can't you do the little thing? Now, if you actually look at it, it's probably 10 to 20 little things that we're actually looking at.
yeah.
And when you look at it like that, it's a lot of things. But what I do is I make what I did. Sorry, I made an essential list. So what I've done for work and what I've got for my family is I've got an essential list of the bare minimum things that I have to do every single day.
Right.
And if I do this bare minimum list, I know that I've grown as a person. My business has grown. I have done the necessary things, and I don't mean like a little to-do list. I mean the proper key things. So for me, the I'd say pick 5 things. So my 5 things that I need to do every day: spend time with my son, make sure I spend time with my twins, um, eat breakfast as a family, get exercise in, and normally eat a healthy meal or something like that, for an example. If I do those 5 things, then everything else in the day is not really massive, you know.
Right. Right.
If that makes sense. And I've got another one for business as well, but I because I used to always beat myself up over all the little things as well. but there was just so many of them. But when I really narrowed the focus down to just getting 5 done or less, then it's just more cope withable.
So that's very much coming back to the routine thing. You've got 5
Mm.
things that you can build a skeletal framework
Well,
around.
that's it, and I approached it with, right. If I had that absolute worst day, I'm ill, and I you know I don't know, I've lost a loved one, I'm ill, or I'm hungover, or something like
Mm.
that, and I can still confidently show up and do my bare minimum, and I know
Yeah.
that that day has been a good day.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
great way. So you've done those 5 things, and that's a good day. So from
yeah,
everything beyond that is a great day. You know,
exactly,
that's a that's a
exactly.
that's a great way of putting it. Someone's asked entropy.
Mhm.
AJ has asked, how do you fit in exercise when working from home plus spending time with kids? If you
Yeah.
Yes,
So I
this is a
struggled
good question
massively
for
with
someone
this.
with 8-month-old twins. This is going to be a good question for you.
So I was someone who would go to the gym most days as well.
Yep.
So that hit me hard when that wasn't around. When I've got the twins, I make sure I go for a walk every day, and
Yep.
I probably walk 10 to 20,000 steps. But on doing that, I've adjusted my diet because obviously I don't need to eat all the things I used to when I was doing all the gym stuff. And I catch up on my podcasts, and I catch up on my audiobooks, and I do a little bit of work while I'm doing my walk. And sometimes I'll do that for a little bit of the walk, and then the rest I'm just enjoying
Yeah.
getting out there, and
Yeah.
that has to be my exercise. I've got other things, I've got various exercise equipment in the garden, but I don't get to use it because I've got 3 kids, and it's absolute bananas. But just get out with the kids and I try and play a little bit of football with my son. I just try and incorporate the
I
kids
do it.
into the exercise. It's the only way, and it's not nowhere near as much fun as lifting barrels and doing all that kind of fun stuff.
No.
But it's you have to adapt. You have to find
Yeah.
a way to adapt, and including the kids in it has been wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ish.
Well, that's how I did because I had to. So I was a runner
Yeah.
before, and then I've had a really bad back for a couple of months, but I've
Mhm.
been doing I walk with my kids. So we're
Mhm.
just if we're going to do a walk, we're
Yeah.
walking together. An hour and a half, just trying to get out there. It's not every
Mhm.
day because it can't be. They just can't. They just will not do that. But you incorporate them is good, and also that does 2 of the 5. Spending time with your kids, and you're doing your exercise,
You
and
see.
that's you're already building that skeleton. You're building that framework. So
Yeah.
so that's I love the idea that because it seems like to me that seems so obvious now you've
Mm.
said it that you should
Mhm.
have this thing where you have your 5 things, and if you've done that, it's a good day,
Yeah.
and then beyond that, it's and see for me, I would have put as my 5 things. I would have put like build a website, make dinner for everyone,
Yeah.
uh, and it would have been all very complicated and
Mhm.
at the top rather than eating a meal with everyone, which is very different to making a full meal for
Yes.
one is a complicated one, it's not so much. So
Mm.
and then I would have beat myself up if, for example, our dinner had been fish and chips, which it very, very rarely is. But if it
Yeah.
had, I would have said, "Oh, I hadn't done it." So then it falls
Mhm.
apart. Whereas your way of breaking it down to the very easiest way to do it, I'd say.
Yeah,
Quite.
yeah, absolutely. It's that, and it's what really matters, and spending time with my family is huge, and breakfast is one of the few times we can all be together when everything's not going absolutely berserk. And exercise is important, for my mental health, but also for my physical health, and just making sure. And I don't have to do huge walks or anything like that, but it's just doing enough to kind of feel like I've got my body moving, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just get it doing it. And I'd say that that kind of stuff is part of the routine. It really helps with mental health as well.
Yeah.
Me getting into running was a really big part of me starting to
Mm.
sort my life out there.
Yeah.
And I got the one step at a time. So, is there anything we haven't covered in your process that you would, I'm not rounding up here, I'm just asking if we, because I don't know what your process is there anything we haven't covered that you would suggest to people that don't that haven't asked a specific question? Is there something that you would give as advice who are suffering with self-esteem issues, that are suffering with stress that's breaking them down? Because they're two very different things, obviously. We're talking,
of course.
Is there something we haven't covered here that you'd say?
There's a lot, man.
There's a lot, but
yeah.
I know that. I know there's going to be a lot, because obviously you're a coach and you have massive courses. Okay, I'll be a bit more specific. That's a bit better. If you could give someone, and you're meeting someone at a party, they're saying they're suffering from anxiety, and they it's just after the pandemic. They're saying they're suffering from anxiety due to the fact that they've spent the last year indoors and now they struggle with social situations. What 3 things would you tell them to do in order to rebuild their confidence after a year of not being around people and now being in a social situation that they find almost alien?
Okay. So I kind of have to preface this with everything, and I know it's obvious, but obviously that would be incredibly individualistic and depending on the person. But I'm going to generalize it a little bit.
Yeah.
So firstly, I would say that the first thing to do, and I know we talked a little bit about this before, but the first thing to do is to make sure that you're getting into action. So if your fear lives in the little bit in action, so if you give yourself time to think, if you give yourself time to overthink, I always use the analogy of if you're up in an airplane going to do a skydive, the more time you look out the door thinking, what do I jump now? Are the clouds right? What could all the things happen? Compared to just getting there, jumping, doing it. You're going to talk yourself out of it if you overthink things. So that's where a lot of anxiety can build up. So I just think less, I suppose.
Think less.
Think less. There you go. Podcast over. See you later.
I know you want to get to bed. That's what I'm just keeping you from bed.
No.
So think less. That's one. Let's not the term think less. I'll take that back. No, it's a great.
Certainly, get into action is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Yes. So certainly getting into action, and kind of aligned with that is to not be afraid to do things messily. Right. So rather than waiting for the right moment to meet the right person, for all the conditions to be right, don't be afraid to get a little bit messy in it. So it's something I learned called messy versus right. Don't wait for the perfect time, because while you're waiting for the perfect time, someone's in there, someone's learning from the experience, someone's learning from the mistakes, growing into it, and they are ready to do whatever it is you're waiting for the perfect chance to do. And so many of us just kind of wait and overthink and wait for the perfect moment. I was always waiting for the perfect job to line up with me. When I would work for the bank, I was always like, the perfect thing's going to come along. I just know it. And it's almost like quite a childish mindset of thinking if you stand still, life's just going to come at you and happen. No, you've got to get out there and explore and make terrible mistakes and apply for the circus and get rejected. And that actually happened.
Did you? Oh, wow. We've got 2 sayings on our house around that. One is perfection isn't the way, it's in the way.
Yeah.
And the other one is you never fail at anything. You only learn to do something or learn how to do something. So you've either done the thing or you're learning how to do the thing. So
100%. Yeah. I think I've got that quote on my website. Is that there's no such thing as failure, just an opportunity to learn.
No, that's
it's the same kind of thing. And that's what I mean. That just getting into the action and not being afraid to get messy with it, it's an unfortunate turn of phrase for overcoming the fear of a pandemic. But You know what I mean?
I no, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I know what you mean. I like I have so just here written. You can't see it obviously, but just here
Mm.
written, I have several things written up on my board, and one of them is perfectionism. Perfectionism isn't the
Yeah.
word. In the word.
Yeah.
And
I'm
yeah,
all about that. But that does mean like I kind of have to always kind of preface that with that doesn't mean just do something stupid and do it really badly.
yeah,
That doesn't mean just jump into a car and drive before you know how to. And it's not that kind of thing. But it's about pursuing things relentlessly without giving it too much thought like that.
yeah. Well, that's a really good point. I think that people often they wait for the opportunity rather than try to do
Mm.
the opportunity. Someone has asked now what because you've said it. What
Yeah,
circus position did you apply for?
all of them.
Did you?
I
Yeah.
was yeah. I was walking through town after university one time, and I thought, I'd love to go to the circus. I can be in the circus. Not appreciating the talent of circus folk, and I can tell you, I can't ride a unicycle. I can't juggle. I can't tightrope walk. And what was the other one? I can't do anything basically.
You can't do
Anything that
anything.
involves that. No, balance or coordination are not my strong points. And I don't look like a clown kind of person. I look too rough, I think, to be a clown.
I think that clowns have makeup, so that wouldn't have mattered as much. But
Not enough makeup, mate. Not enough makeup.
not enough makeup.
Not.
Um, I'm aware that you do have obviously twins and everything going on in the background, but I do want I want to ask you a question that I think is one of those ones that comes into play here. A lot of people say "fake it until you make it," which I find I hate the term, but
Mm-hmm.
like the sentiment.
Yes.
So I'm gonna be asking everyone this question who comes on this. But
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts around the term "fake it till you make it"?
I'm the same as you. I don't like the term for many reasons. I don't like something being forced into a catchy rhyme,
Yeah.
for a start.
Yeah,
I don't like anything that can be put on a kind of a cheap badge or something. Anyway,
t-shirt.
not
Yeah,
important. Yeah, exactly. Um, so I do like the sentiment, and a lot of what I like to work with people to do is to really imagine where they are wanting to get, and I mean really in detail. I'm not saying like imagine being a king and then step into that, but like really kind of intricately imagine the life that they're wanting to achieve by the end of where we're going to get to, and to step into that and start being that person. And it's almost the same kind of thing,
right.
thinking about what kind of person shows up to get that result, and
Yeah.
just start being that person. And it's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but it's in a sense, fake it till you make it.
It's in a sense. See, someone said practice it until you perfect it, but we've just covered that a minute ago. In that you can't just keep perfection. Um,
Mm.
is an enemy when it comes to things. Unless we're
Yes.
talking brain surgery here,
Yes.
definitely practice that. But
Mm.
the first step to becoming a doctor is to learn how to become a doctor. So you need to go to med school.
Yes.
They, you need to practice on stuff. But
Absolutely. There's two things in that. Yes, perfection. Take that word out of that and put it in the bin.
yeah,
But practice is so key. And there was a great thing I was listening to today, um, and it was, you can read about how to play the guitar, you can watch video tutorials on it, you
yeah,
can listen to other people play it, but unless you sit down and you practice and you practice and you practice, you're never going to know how to play guitar. All of the thinking about it, looking at it, doing that kind of stuff, it'll give you a certain knowledge, but it's in the practice, it's in the action, it's in the doing over and over again that will get you to where you want to be. But that place cannot be perfectionism.
yeah. That's it. See, that's a great way of putting it. I think that
Yeah.
you have to don't watch, don't look at, don't observe,
Yeah.
just keep doing it. So
Yeah.
well, I think we'll wrap up there because obviously, Phil, it's been a great show. But where can people find you? Where can everyone come and see you and do your stuff?
So I've got my website, which is pmalifecoaching.com. PMA is my initials. I don't know why. I think I don't want
Because of
people to think.
the advert,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I know. So pmalifecoaching.com. I am on Facebook as just my name, Phil Airson. I am on LinkedIn, also Phil Airson. Find me, add me. I'll talk to you. It'll be great. I'll be awake.
You'll be awake.
We'll have a great time. Yeah.
And you offer coaching services. Obviously, you're a professional confidence and stress coach. That bit.
Yes. So yes, I work as a confidence and stress coach. I tackle many other areas, but that's kind of where my expertise is in really getting someone to really have full acceptance of themselves and showing them exactly what they can do and getting them there. And it's the best. I love my job. I love the people I work with, watching them succeed, and going from people who are so full of self-doubt and so stuck, the amount of people that are just stuck in this place and kind of hitting the same wall over and over again. Watching them kind of fly is it's the best, the absolute best. So yeah.
I found when I went from I started teaching comedy a few years ago, and I went from I was very reticent to start doing it, and then when I started it, I just became so proud of my students. I was just like, oh, this is amazing. I'm just so happy to have been part of their lives, and part of that journey, and then watching them become better. I think so. One of my students said to me that his goal was to support me on tour, and I said, that's no, my goal is to support you on tour. I don't want to be better than you. I want you to be better than me. I want to. Yeah. I'm you. That's where the best thing. So I'm sure it's the same for you, right?
It is. I've almost got this business model which is destined to fail, in that I want to get people exactly where they want to be as quick as possible. And when I tell the coaches, I'm like, do you not want people to work with you long term and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, yes. I want to know people in a relational sense, kind of going long term, but I want to be able to watch people succeed and not have a need for me as quickly as possible, because that means I'm good at what I do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so many coaches are like, oh, you have to work with me for a year, or you have to work with me for so long. But I really want to just get people to success as quick as possible, and not in a kind of, get it. I'll work with them for as long as they need, but I don't want people to be in pain and not reach everything they can for any longer than they have to.
That's a really nice way of putting it. I think you don't want people to be in pain. I've never heard a life coach say that, or any kind of coach. I don't want people to be in pain. It's such a nice way of because people don't realize that it does cause all this anguish, and when you're not in touch with yourself, you're not doing it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Phil. Really, really appreciate that. We'll say thank you very much to everyone that joined us today. I'll turn to the right camera.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I look like I'm saying right to the right camera. Thank you very much to everyone that's joined us in the chat today. It's been lovely having you. This will be up as a podcast on Wednesday morning on all of the common podcast channels. And next week, we are going to be talking about eating disorders and living with them. So thank you very much again to Phil. You've been fantastic. It's been an absolutely good journey. Everyone go and check out Phil's website. I've been Chris PG as normal, and this has been the Mental Health Bar. Have a lovely night, and I will see everyone Wednesday morning. Later.